Hello team, welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MSP. This is Ukraine War News Update. First part thereof for the 9th of June 2024. Let's get straight to where we normally start. Ukrainian general staff figures for the Russian losses for the day before. All the usual caveats apply, of course. We have 1,270 personnel lost. That is pretty much where it's been, give or take, for the last couple of weeks. 26 tanks is a massive number. It's a huge improvement for the Ukrainians, huge increase on yesterday's numbers that were quite low. Same actually for the armored personnel vehicles. I think we had 9 tanks, 9 APVs, something like that yesterday. Now we've got 26 tanks, 26 APVs, really significant increase there, and 60 artillery systems. It's a phenomenal number. 2 multiple launch rocket systems and 2 anti-aircraft warfare systems, both useful numbers in those categories, as well as 78 vehicles and fuel tanks. That's absolutely incredible. And 5 pieces of special equipment. So a really challenging day for the Russians again, if these figures can be trusted. But even if you think there's a 30%, as much as a 30% inflationary variable to these stats, then goodness me, it's still problematic. You take 30% off the personnel, tanks, APVs, artillery systems, and vehicles and fuel tanks, and you still get really high numbers. So whichever way you look at this, the Russians are having a hard time with it. And that seems to be borne out by the numbers that we see from visually confirmed losses, from data points like Andrew Pepech and his team, from Oryx still producing those numbers that are showing huge losses on a daily basis. I think Oryx's numbers last night were 57 Russian losses, visually confirmed. So, you know, the Russians are definitely struggling. I'm sure of that. So if we look at this, we're talking, 4-to-1 loss ratio of Russian to Ukrainian losses. That is not what the Russians would want. Let's look at the Ukrainian stats, the value for the equipment. I mean, first thing to note, look at the bottom. There are a number of lower value vehicles like motorcycles the Russians are losing and getting added to the stats. So that is worth remembering. The Ukrainians have lost an AMTPQ-50 radar from a Lancet. That is going to hurt them somewhat. We have an artillery, Panzerhitzer 2000, destroyed by artillery as well. So a boat, a radar, Panzerhitzer 2000 destroyed. Krasnopol, he says, I'm not 100% sure on this, but very confident. So that's a laser-guided, precision-guided munition from a barrel to some artillery there, taking out that Panzer Howitzer 2000. That will be a sore loss for the Ukrainians, that's absolutely for sure. Then we have a couple of tanks thrown in, BMP M113 damaged and destroyed. Nothing too crazy after that, but a couple of high value losses at the top of the ticket for the Ukrainians there. Now when we go to the Russians, they've had a damaged Buk M2 air defense system, electronic warfare system destroyed. We have another 3 engineering vehicles taken out. We've got 2 BM-21 Grad multiple launch rocket systems destroyed. That's fairly significant. Then on the tank front, quite a number of tanks, T-80s, different variants, BVs and BVMs, T-72, T-62, so on and so forth. And then infantry fighting vehicles, the usual suspects there. Not a massive list of them today, only 6 on today's list. 1 BMP 1s, 2s, 3s, BMDs. Then APCs and trucks and the usual kind of usual culprits there. We have some all-terrain vehicles, some golf carts there, and a quad. Lots of motorbikes, cars, vans, everything like that. So the Russians have lost a lot more kit than the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians maybe got a couple of bits of kit that they wouldn't really want to see on that loss list. So we continue trying to add up the data points to see what the overall picture is. Now, 115 Russian deserters from 1 regiment. Seems like these are only those who did not return from vacation. So the Russians are really suffering by, according to this shared document from a Russian source, so an official Russian document, to show that just in 1 regiment, 115 people have not returned from vacation. Now, this is why the Russians have apparently been quite reluctant to do rotations that involve allowing their troops to go back to Russia. They generally try and like them rotated within occupied territories, so you can go and have your R&R back in in the west of Luhansk or whatever. Well, if you let them go home, then there's a really strong chance they don't come back. And here we have evidence of that. So 115 in one regiment, I would assume, is a bit of an issue. And then they try and round these people up, put them in detention, send them to meet assaults on the front line. It's not looking good morale-wise for the Russians. That much seems to be the case. Okay, then we have here Russian soldiers yet again stormed K2 battalion positions and suffered up to 60 casualties after heavy battles in the trenches. So another bit of footage you can go and check out there. That is in the, I hadn't actually added that one. That will be in the description below. So they are taking these heavy losses. Now, the biggest piece of news that's been going around, it's taken up most of the bandwidth this morning, is this. So fifth generation jet hit by Ukraine. I was waiting for this moment to happen, says Ukraine battle map, for over a year. More Su-57s will be destroyed in the future by Ukraine. Only about 20 Su-57s are in service now. $40 million and 5% of Russia's entire stealth fighter jet fleet. Okay. First thing to note is that the Su-57s haven't really been brought to bear in this war. The Russians have not used them an awful lot for various reasons. They are incredibly expensive, and they also they are also not what what the Russians have tried to lead people to believe they are. Now, Sir Smeal on my thread said the other day, the Su-57 is likely not being used in Ukraine for several reasons. They have less than 20, making them precious. Different claims about this. Some are claiming, really, in operational terms, there's only about 6 of them operational. And if one has been rendered inoperational, then that's a really significant change there. But anyway, he says they have less than 20, making them precious. They are afraid poor performance will cripple foreign sales. So even if they do use them, it's a bit like the T-14, right? Very similar to the T-14 Armata that's supposed to be the replacement to the T-90M breakthrough tank, as in that's their best tank at the moment. They've got this new all singing all dancing tank that's actually just a pile of crap. And the more it gets shown to be a pile of crap, the more it'll hurt future sales. They need to get it right before they try and sell it, but it just doesn't seem to be happening. And now they've kind of almost officially ditched that T-14 project. Well, with the Su-57, Sir Smeal says they are afraid of poor performance that will cripple foreign sales. The plane is still sorting out technical shortcomings and is not up to operational standards, and they have turned out to be less stealthy than many countries' fourth generation fighters. There are other reasons, but these are the main ones in both Western and Russian media, so thanks to Smeal for that. Well, anyway, one of these jets was damaged somewhat, and I think it was done in that one I showed you with the video of the small arms fire. Is it on the way to Mozdok air base? That small arms fire trying to shoot down this large drone that then does that in its terminal phase, does that dive, and then blows up on the far end of the air base. Well, it appears to be that was the time that this Su-57 was targeted. Now, fighter bomber, the Russian Telegram channel run by a Russian Air Force pilot, confirmed this originally. He said yesterday the airfield in Akhtubinsk, actually that's Akhtubinsk, not Mozdok, so actually that's different from this one. So Pier 01, no, sorry, my bad. He's saying we're still waiting for news from Mozdok, so we don't know what's happened in Mozdok. But we are hearing about what's happened with the Su-57. So anyway, sorry, my bad. Su-57 was damaged by shrapnel. It's now being determined whether or not it can be restored. If not, then this will be the first combat loss of the Su-57 in history. So I'll tell you again, for the price of this Su-57 alone, shelters from drones could be built on all PTA aircraft in the country. Of course, if you don't bully them along the way and don't give out kickbacks, and there would still be some left for Laos. What he's trying to say, and this is a really salient point, is that there have been so many complaints over the course of this war that the Russians have not protected their aircraft in situ on military air bases, primarily in occupied regions of Ukraine and then over the border into Russia. They haven't built protected hangars. They haven't really done much apart from paint the odd decoy on the ground. They've done very little to protect these aircraft, and yet a Su-57 costs this much money and they're not even using them. Don't bother building these. Do bother protecting your existing aircraft. Anyway, Ukrainian now is more and more is coming out. So Ukrainian drone attack on a Su-57, the most modern Russian fighter aircraft at the Akhtubinsk air base on the night of the 7th to 8th of June. There was an attempted drone attack on the Russian Su-57 on the territory of Akhtubinsk in the Astrakhan region of Russia. That's 600 kilometers from the front line. Now, there have been satellite images published by the main director of the intelligence of Ukraine showing traces of drone strikes directly next to the Su-57. However, the extent of the damage received by the fighter jet but to the fighter remains unclear. So this is the Su-57. There appear to be a couple of drone strikes right next to the Su-57. Now, shrapnel from such strikes will be flying out at that Su-57. And you don't want a stealth fighter that isn't in pristine condition with holes in it, right? So this could mean that fighter is really out of use until it's effectively had its body kind of largely replaced, or wings or whatever. So even though this isn't a direct hit, it can be, really damaging to the aircraft. And indeed, Russian sources are saying it is damaged, and it's, one is unsure how badly, but this is not good. So this here is top lead saying Russia only has 6 Su-57s that could fight. On June the 8th, Ukraine hit 1 such aircraft. Russia's also about the same number of unready Su-57s. So they're saying 6 that do work, 6 that don't work, but I suppose could be brought up to scratch. Now, as it says here, Russia only had 6 ready-made Su-57s in 2022. Now it's difficult for Russia to continue their production due to sanctions. It can carry Kh-69 missiles, which destroyed the Tripolia power plant. It can also carry guided bombs such as the Kab 1500. Now, to be fair, they get that usage out of some of their older airframes. So really, what's the point of this if you're not going to be flying, particularly over contested airspace so much, and you're not having dogfights with other advanced aircraft? So it's possibly no real need for the Russians to use these, hence why they're not using them. Russia uses a Su-57 very cautiously due to its small number and fear of losing export opportunities. Right. I love Oryx here, Jakub Janowski, who keeps the Oryx database going, adding to yesterday's numbers that he had already done, adds 1 stealth multi-role fighter, 1 times damage. 1 national pride, 1 times damage. Lol. So this is, if nothing else, a big hit to Russians' PR. And how sensitive they are to stuff like this. It wouldn't surprise me if there was some reaction today. There was some retaliation for the Russians for this. And the latest that I've seen is here's a Google Translate of, I think, a Russian source, and exactly saying what I said, that there's effectively the parallel of the Armata. Soon the Russians will thank us for the destruction of the Su-57. Well, a little more about the Su-57. This is the Armata of aviation, if you like. It's like he is, and there is an order for it, and they even build a little of them. The question is it needed today? Provided that the Su-35 does everything the same. So the Su-35 is a 4th generation fighter, 5th generation being the stealth multi-role fighter. This is exactly 1-on-1. It doesn't just fly and shoot, but both aircraft use absolutely the same range of weapons. At the same time, the 35th, so the Su-35, can be produced much faster and it's much cheaper. I'm generally silent about the fact that a huge number of people have been trained for it. In other words, you want more people trained, it's cheaper, it does the same thing, broadly speaking, as a much more expensive, arguably pretty crappy stealth fighter. So there is that. Right, And here we have, sorry about that, messed that one up. So just going on to a different topic. So this is moving across from the fighter jets onto you more, I don't know, basic drone footage of Russian equipment being destroyed. This is a Russian assault on Krasnohorivka in the Mariinka direction. Here we have an attack of 5 vehicles, 3 veering off. What's important about this? So 2 things to note. One, it's the same things I've been saying often, but just for the newbies who might be here, the Russians are attacking with much smaller numbers of vehicles than they were 6 months. Really, you look at the beginning of October when they did attacks on Avdiivka, they were attacking with 15 to 30 vehicles. Now, the max we generally see are 5 vehicles, and often it's just 1 vehicle. So the first thing is we have 5 vehicles. We have track guard and shed, a couple of those in there. And they all appear to be destroyed, or certainly 4 out of the 5 appear to be destroyed here, visually confirmed. And they are all taken out by drones. The importance of drones here, and their ability, their capabilities now, significant enough to take out armoured moving vehicles. Drones have largely replaced artillery in many situations, necessarily so because of the lack of artillery ammunition, and now they have now filled that gap out of necessity. They've also developed, it appears, I think, a good enough interception rate or success rate for these drones that they are actually the preferred choice, maybe, than artillery. So normally you'd be peppering these 5 vehicles with barrages of artillery and taking them out with a big artillery shell. Obviously, the kinetic power of those artillery shells is far superior to a drone. But with drones, you can, like, one unit might have 40 drones to throw at these vehicles and just get them up, pop away at them. And even if you've only got, say, a 30% success rate, you've got enough of these drones, and you hit a vehicle to render it immobile, and then you just hit it and hit it and hit it again. And as you can see here, 4 of the vehicles geolocated as destroyed. And it's really difficult for the Russians. Well, I would argue for either side to do mass combined maneuvers. I think I keep saying, I think Ukraine's best chance is for Russia to capitulate economically and politically and kind of be wobbling and maybe sort of retreating. That's when you hit them with a big breakthrough. But when both sides are sitting there ready to accept, ready to soak up the pressure of these kind of half-assed attacks, like maybe if you had 50 vehicles at this point, you're it's a Pyrrhic kind of victory, not a Pyrrhic victory, it's just an overwhelming victory. You can lose 15 of those vehicles, but 35 of them would get through. Bosh, that's how you can punch through. But until either of these sides has enough accumulated force to punch through, these kind of attacks are just fairly suicidal. You might eventually get some troops to one place, and you might grind through taking Krasnohorivka and taking this small village and taking Umanska and taking Ocheritina. But losing all of these troops and pieces of equipment in doing so renders it not worthwhile, I would argue, in the long run, because yes, you're taking a little bit of territory, but you are essentially stopping your armed forces from being able to do anything major going forward for a very long time. Military intelligence is saying that a collaborator, ex-mayor of Kupiansk, is in critical condition. I almost reported this yesterday, but didn't. But I will today because there's been another assassination attempt as well. So an assassination attempt in Belgrade, I believe, in Russia, on the former mayor of Kupiansk, who was a collaborator. So that has taken place. And then that was, I think, 2 days ago. And then yesterday, death of more traitors is confirmed, says Tim White, in occupied Melitopol. Dmitry Kovrin was unable to manage an energy company after collaborating, to manage an energy company, although he's probably unable now. After collaborating with Russia, he died in a bush with a bottle at his side. It's also said policeman Danilo Udod was killed by Russians. So I don't know if that's actually assassinations or just people dying randomly, but similar sorts of people. So yeah, a bit of attrition to the those who collaborate with the Russians. Right, we're going to look at what's this? Oh yeah, just a bit of they relatively quiet night in terms of strikes in either country. Although there's news coming out, there were naval drones active in the Crimea area, and it appears there could be a serious sinking of a ship. The pieces of the jigsaw indicate that that's the case. I talked a couple of nights ago about how there were reports of a ship getting taken down, but I think that was a different incident, possibly in Sevastopol. We haven't heard anything since. That might have happened, but now we're going to be talking around the bend up towards the Sea of Azov, but we get to that. I think this point is really salient. So when you look at the Mozdok Air Base, where there was that, I just kind of referenced that video again, showed it in tiny a tiny rectangle of it in the video just now. But the point was, and I often make this, but I don't make this point enough, I don't think, is that you have drones traveling 400 kilometers, 600 kilometers, 1,000 kilometers and getting to their destination and either hitting their destination or being shot down last minute. This very, very obviously indicates that the Russian air defense capabilities are non-existent in the main. Ukraine's revenge reach gets longer and longer. Take a look at the satellite image to appreciate the remarkable distance Ukrainian drones travelled to attack the Mozdok military airfield, and flying in broad daylight. The only Russian air defense you hear is some light arms. And I said this yesterday about this particular strike. I said it's incredible that all you can hear as they attack an airbase, a military airbase, is small arms fire, just firing pea shooters into the air. That has absolutely no effect on the drone, and it then goes into terminal dive and blows up, one presumes, at its intended location, right? The same can be said about the strike on the Su-57. You've got an airbase with Su-57s and you've got two drones hitting right next to the plane. That won't be due to air defense or electronic warfare. I doubt. It's probably just, that's the circle error probable of those drones being flown however many hundreds of kilometers. Russia is in serious freaking trouble. It is a massive country, geographically speaking. It has so many targets inside Russia in terms of military targets, critical infrastructure, so energy infrastructure, hydrocarbons, both production, pumping it out, refining it, transporting it, all of that stuff. It's got military installations all over the shop. It's got other critical infrastructure to do with internal security or politics or whatever. All of this stuff around Russia. And it's that big a place that you will struggle to get air defense to protect everything you need. Now, Ukraine is a big country, but actually it's enclosed. And what that means is you can place air defenses around the country in a way that you can better protect it than Russia can protect its country. Really, what Russia should be doing, I would have thought, would be shoving all of its air defenses around the outside of the Ukrainian border. That's the only way I can think that they would adequately defend Russian airspace. So anything that comes over the border gets hit. Because you can then condense that to the borders of Ukraine. You start taking all of those pieces and then scatter them around Russia. You are inviting Ukraine to just send in drones and missiles into Russia. You have to put like an Iron Dome type thing around the border of Ukraine to protect Russia. That's the only way. And I'm no expert, but I'm fairly sure that makes common sense to me. But Russia are going for the scatter approach. It's like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Damn it, they've just struck that oil refinery. Quick, let's protect all the oil refineries. Damn it, they've hit some air bases and Su-57s. Quick, go and protect Su-57s. Damn it, they've hit the oil refineries. Quick, go and protect the oil refineries. Damn it, they've hit another air. And it's just like moving stuck around. It's whack-a-mole on air and on drones and missiles and putting your air defenses in places and often reacting too late and Goodness me, all I can see, especially as nearer the border, when they do place those air defense systems near the border, although arguably not for defensive purposes, for offensive purposes in taking out, in firing S-300s at Kharkiv, right? Then they get hit by HIMARS. So it's a real problem for the Russians. What I think they've probably done is waste S-300s and 400s in taking out civilian infrastructure. And they should have had that. So rather than hit Kharkiv and then get Western nations really peed off at the horrible way that you are targeting civilian infrastructure, rather than do that, take those S-300s and S-400s and protect your air bases and oil refineries, and you'll be in a better position than you are now, I would have thought. Now, what happened? I'd be interested on your thoughts on that, by the way. What happened last night is that it appears a Russian ship has been sunk. And I think this is a pretty good bet. If you're a betting man or woman, you know, this is, you probably get all right odds on this, and it'll be a pretty good bet. Breaking: Ukrainian naval drone may have sunk a large landing ship in Yeysk last night, Crimean Wind Channel reports. At night, around midnight, so if this is, to just give you an idea of where this is, Crimea is just to the left of the screen. We've got Berdyansk, we've got Mariupol. It goes up there to Taganrog and Rostov-on-Don. Here is the Rostov Oblast before you get down to the Krasnodar Oblast. Anyway, we're talking about the Yeysk area coming onto here, and you can see that there's a green and red boat. It appears that a red boat is accompanying the green boat as far as satellite indications are concerned, and then the red boat disappears. So, at night, around midnight, a Ukrainian drone attacked a Russian ship, so that's a sea drone, naval drone, near the port of Yeysk, point 2. So that's near here. And the ship, preliminary, went to accompany the cruiser Moscow. So it then went out over here to accompany the cruiser Moscow is the claim. In the morning, all information about the attack was deleted from all public pages. So it disappears, and then the claims of the attack were deleted. And what do we have here? Near Yeysk, it was possible that it was not the BDK, the landing ship, that was hit, but another ship, reports the Crimean Wind Monitoring Group, citing satellite imagery data this morning. So, in other words, to go back to that, it might not be that ship there, but another ship that sank. The original claim was a ship was attacked at Yeysk, and then that went out and then eventually sank. But that seems, the way I interpret this, I could be getting this wrong, but that to me seems a little bit implausible. If you're hit, you wouldn't want to be moving. So it was, when was it? It was possible that it was not the BDK landing ship that was hit, but another ship, reports Crimean Wind. Okay, this morning, a ship 96 meters long was spotted in the Yeysk roadstead, measured from a satellite image, accuracy plus or minus a few meters. Now, large landing ships have a length of 112 to 113 meters. And this ship measured 96 meters. So it's probably outside of it being a large landing ship. But a Project 775 and Project 1171 Tapir would be the possibilities there. But instead, a Project 22160 patrol ship of the Vasily Baikov type are 94 meters long. In other words, okay, we have a possible ship type that fits the satellite data. And then an oil slick has also appeared that was not there the day before. So this points to a good possibility that a Russian ship has been sunk. I don't know if we'll get any more data on that. Usually with those Magura 5s, those Sea Baby drones, we do get footage that eventually comes out. So we'll see if anything happens if any more information comes out today. Right, moving on to other bits and pieces. Donetsk people don't like us. The locals don't like us. They call us occupiers. It's interesting. So this is a Russian soldier talking about how they are received in the Donetsk area, which is supposed to be, the Donetsk People's Republic, where they are pro-Russian. They want the Russians to be there. But actually, the locals don't like us. They hate us. Russian soldier Konstantin Sergeyevich Romanyuk, call sign Amich, he took out loans and went to war to return them. He was captured in the Kharkiv direction, so he's one that went to war because he financially needed to. He says that on the border in the Belgorod region, there are conscripts with orders to shoot retreating soldiers and deserters. We have heard this. We have heard that in the Vovchansk area, they are using barrier troops, and we've heard this from Russians. Here's another Russian who is saying it. Quote, there was no one left in the 1st Battalion from the 3rd Battalion. It will, if there is 100 to 200 men left from our battalion, that's a maximum. The 9th Regiment is definitely gone. Somewhere around 2,000 to 2,500 men are definitely not alive at the moment. Either they were injured or killed or refused to fight. So here is, again, pinch of salt and all that. But my goodness, he's saying, look, people don't like us. And here we are, getting killed. Just in crazy numbers. It's not good news for the Russians again. Up to 90% of Ukrainian POWs, so these are Ukrainian, not just soldiers, but including people who were just whisked out of, say, energy plants and all sorts of different places, so civilians as well. But 90% of Ukrainian POWs have suffered torture, according to the Attorney General. Quote, the system created by Russia is a system of torture and inhuman treatment towards those who fall into their hands on occupied territories or within Russian territory. Again, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys? It's pretty obvious who the bad guys are, it seems to me. And then, this is what freedom looks like in Russia. More specifically, she was arrested for broadcasting witness accounts of the Butcher massacre, says Lilith Lovett. What's going on here? Okay. A Russian Twitch streamer has been sentenced to over 5 years in prison for criticizing the country. And actually, what she was doing was broadcasting witness accounts of the Butcher massacre. She's now been locked up for 5 years. And this is what freedom looks like in Russia. It looks like a woman in shackles for exercising freedom of speech. There you go. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe and share. Really appreciate your support. Take care, everybody, and speak to you soon. Toodle pips.